Welcome to the Autonomic Healing Podcast. I'm Tom Pals.
And I'm Ruth Lorensson. We'll be unpacking what it looks like to activate your brain to holistically manage stress and trauma that bring healing to the mind, body, and spirit.
Being free to live authentically as humans.
Thank you for joining us. Let's get this conversation started.
Well, Tom, this is quite a momentous occasion because this is our very last episode on the ABCs of Thriving. Not our last episode on the podcast. We're actually really excited about, we've been putting our heads together and chatting through some ideas for our next season. So watch out for that. But we are right at the end of the alphabet with the letter Z. And I'm excited to have this conversation. Do you want to let us know what we're talking about today in our last letter? This word that really we want to unpack so that we understand how it can impact us when we want to be people who don't just survive, but really enter into life thriving.
Mm-hmm. And I think Z has to be for zest. And there's a reason there's this phrase, zest for life. And if anything describes thriving, it is zest.
That's so true. And we had I just want to say as well, we had we were tossing around some ideas for this, weren't we? We were talking about zeal. Mm-hmm. And we decided against zeal, and zeal can have a few positive things for sure. But we felt like this, if you compare zest and zeal feels like a drive, like we've got to drive ourselves forwards. But there's something about zest that is part of who we are, not like a drive, And so that's where we're really going to start with this word zest today, and how it can really bring a dynamic in our lives that really shines and stands out and makes us feel like, wow, our lives are enjoyable, they're thriving, they are full of life. So let's start with, we were going to start with just the citrus fruit, right? Zest. Because
what is zest?
What is
to start with? Well, it originated in the 1600s in France, and it was a French word, zeste, and that was the outer colored part of the peel of a citrus fruit, especially an orange or a lemon, that was cut or scraped from the fruit and had a pleasantly sharp taste and an appetizing flavor. It was used as a flavoring, as a garnish. Zest gives a sense of refreshment. And it was something that was added to enhance the flavor or taste of something and making it even more, not just palatable, but yummy.
Yeah.
That's zest.
Yeah, and as someone I'm not an amazing cook, but I have created in my time a good old, lemon zest cake.
Mm-hmm.
And for someone who's done that, there is something about zest that it's not just flavorful. It creates this balance between the sharpness of it. Creates this balance in, for example, if you're making a cake or if you are literally putting it into food. And so I think if we apply that to our lives, I think there's something about zest that, it might be sharp, but it creates this balance to other things that does then obviously create the depth of flavor. So I think the balance thing is really important. The sharpness against the sweetness. We can't have everything all in one palette, otherwise it would be boring, right? It would be bland. Mm-hmm. So there's something about zest that does that.
Yep. And it's not just foods, it's drinks.
Mm-hmm.
Adding something citrus to a drink. Hello.
So this is your area of expertise.
Oh, I like that. Yes. There is, if we step back from it, zest actually relates to our neurobiology and our sense of taste and the processing of foods. Citrus, which zest is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Scrape that peel. Zest has a sense of hydration.
Mm.
Citrus fruits are juicy and contain a lot of water, and that it wasn't just originally zest, wasn't just the scraping of the peel. It also referred to the juice from inside, although that became a bit obsolete. Okay, but it was both. It was citrus inside and out. So it also, from a neurobiological perspective, stimulates saliva. The acids in citrus fruits, like oranges and lemons, activate taste buds on the tongue, which triggers the production of saliva, and saliva helps break down food and allows taste buds to pick up more flavor.
Mm.
And
Wow.
citrus has this wonderful effect of masking less refreshing flavors. Not ones we don't like, but the flavors that are less refreshing. The acidity in citrus can make less refreshing flavors like sugar. Sugar's not refreshing.
Mm.
We like the taste of it, but it's not refreshing. And citrus masks that, which is why often a combination of citrus with sugar,
Mm-hmm.
that's yummy.
It's a very satisfying drink.
It is. And then the aroma. The smell of citrus fruits can trigger feelings of excitement, of stimulation, and nostalgia for things that have been experienced before, like happened just with your lemon zest cake. So all of these things.
I feel like I haven't made that in years. I feel like inspired now to go and like try and dig out the recipe.
See, there it is, inspired too.
But I think there is something, it's really interesting actually, Tom, even as you speak those things of like, you know, the citrus in the drink and how it's refreshing, and then the citrus in the smells in the home. And I'm with you. Like I'm actually feeling it and almost can smell it. So I think there is something so powerful about, we know what it's like to, on a hot sunny day, to drink a cool drink with some citrus in it. We know what it's like to be at home and there's some like lemon zest. You can smell the lemon zest. It brings us back to those moments of warmth or refreshment, or where life, you know, those moments of where the life has carried flavor with it, so to speak. And so that's why it's so important for us. And obviously this will be applied in our lives, in the way we do relationships, in the way we're thinking about our careers, in the way that we're doing family, in the way that we're thinking and loving about ourselves. How do we have zest in those spaces? And I think the important thing to say, I think, is that, you know, you can have zest whether things are going well or whether things are not going well. You know, like I think it's not determined. It's not, you know, you can have zest in all sorts of spaces. It's not just if like, oh, well, you know, you're having a cozy time right now, and so we'll be zestful. You know, it actually, there's something about zest that can be applied, that can be appreciated, that can be incorporated into the human life at every stage. Would you say that's true?
Absolutely, because that's why where zest originally referred to the citrus and the effects, as I just talked about, that adding that zest to a food or a drink enhanced the experience of it and the enjoyment of it. That's why it naturally carried over into zest for life. because as the person was living the moment of experiencing this food, they were living. And the experience of the effect of zest on the food and drink naturally associated with living those moments. And so it's the word started being used for zest for life in many different ways. It was adopted into the English later on in the 1600s, and the E was dropped. So we had Zest, and it was used to also describe things that added enjoyment to life, or the attitude that deeply enjoys living.
Yeah.
The attitude that deeply enjoys living. Having a zest for life is living life as an adventure, especially when it is challenging. That's what zest for life is. Living life as an adventure, especially when it is challenging.
Yeah.
And it's a choice that we can consciously make to add experiences and things to our lives that are zestful, that are zest.
Wow, that's good.
That's a conscious choice.
Yeah, and it is a choice. And I think I was thinking just now, this just popped into my head, but I was thinking about how, when I'm sure everyone's had this experience, but when you've got a small little cut on your finger and you squeeze a lemon and that sting, right? You experience that sting. And I would just wonder whether sometimes for people who, take the picture of what I'm giving you, but I wonder if sometimes for people who, maybe they are a little bit wounded, or they're beat up, or they're not having a great time, things are stacked up against them, whatever it is, I wonder whether sometimes the response to zest can be a little bit like that sting of like, oh, I can't have that at the moment, and so that feels hard for me. But I think the point is that actually that sting just lasts for a second, right? And I think that what I would really like to convey, Tom, I think to our listeners today, is that actually, even if you're in a wounded space, or even if you're in a hard space, there's an offer to have zest and enjoy of life within the day-to-day. Now, it might not be that all of your problems go away, or that's not going to change stuff, but you can still have zest. And I think the encouragement is, don't be put off by by your circumstances. Don't back off from zest because maybe you're just in a more of a desert season, so to speak, right now, but instead know that this is for you too.
And of all the times to add zest, it's when what we are living is unpalatable.
Yes, yeah.
It's like, I don't like this.
Yeah, you need it more.
Add zest. It'll make it more palatable. So citric acid is an acid. It is. And zest for life is intentionally choosing to add things that make life more palatable, that make it more interesting, that add refreshment. So what I would encourage our listeners to do, and it's something that I choose to do very consciously, very intentionally, is to add zest. What is this thing, this experience, this relationship that adds zest to my life? And what are the things that don't? I don't have time for that. I don't have interest in the things that don't add zest, because life, just like any food, can be palatable or unpalatable, but we can enhance how palatable it is. how desirous it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's a conscious, intentional choice. I maybe have mentioned this in the past. Many people have a to-do list. And if you don't have one, it's helpful to have a to-do list, because otherwise you're just reacting to this or that, and there's no intentionality. That's the benefit of a to-do list. But I also encourage people to have a get-to list.
Mm.
And a get-to list is like Zest. What are the things I get to do? Because I could choose that.
Yeah.
And some of the things that are to do might even be get to. Spending time with a loving family member or friend, that can be a get to, but it's also a to do. It's Zest. It's a conscious choice to do that. To not add zest to life may even result in life becoming unpalatable.
Wow. That's a strong statement there.
Life is like food. You got to have it.
Mm-hmm.
But how palatable is it?
Yeah. Is it going to be is it going to be, and again, going back to that, it's the balance, it's the sharp versus the sweet, it's the complementary flavors that make it more flavorsome. So, and you can, I guess the idea is you get to do that in all sorts of ways, that you get to do that for yourself. I was just thinking this morning, one thing, I took myself on a little walk this morning, and there's this route that I do. We live just right by all the trails, and there's this trail that goes through the park, and
Wow.
I've done it a million times, but I walked through this morning. It's a gorgeous day here, like Colorado, man. Like this, you can't beat it. It's beautiful. Sun is shining. It's frosty. So I went on this walk, and there was this. On the way, there's this kind of swing, like this long bench swing. And I never, ever stop and sit down. I'm just always like doing my, I'm thinking, I just want to get my exercise in, clear my head. And today I just thought, I'm going to take 5 minutes and I'm just going to sit on this swing and just watch the nature. And it felt like a moment of zest. It felt like that was something I did for myself. It doesn't have to be massive. These are little things sometimes. But it is those little choices to like, what's enjoyable here? What's going to stimulate my senses, and what will be beautiful in this moment to seize, So that was just a tiny little example this morning for me, Zest.
And a great example, because the point of Zest was that it's refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
And neurobiologically, it's refreshing. So
I guess the question, Tom, that we all should be thinking through the lens of is like, what can I do? What do I get to do? The choices that I make, what are the choices in front of me that I could do things in all sorts of spaces of my life that are refreshing? So that could be in terms of like a relationship, or in terms of like I just explained, for myself or for yourself, or be to do all sorts of things there. What are the things that light me up? What are the things that make me feel refreshed? What are the things that can feel different and like something that is like contrasting to my normal? I think that's a way of looking at it. What haven't we done for a while? Like, it's even like within a family. We watched my family, and my kids are kind of growing up at the moment, so I've shielded them. They're like kind of teens, tweens right now, but I've shielded them from the 80s films so far, because they're full of swear words and all of the stuff that we were put through, and I'd never let my kids watch those films. But the other day we let them watch Gremlins. I don't know if you ever watched that film. And it was we just haven't done that before, and it was so fun to let them watch that. But it was something different. It was like we've got all sorts of things that we normally do, but actually, even in a family situation, is there something that you haven't done for ages or you've never done before. Those are the things that will be like zest, refreshing, right?
Yep. And what has been refreshing is a place to start.
Yes.
What might be refreshing? What might be a change of pace? What might be something interesting? And I'd encourage our listeners not to simply think about things that are easy.
Yeah.
The things that could be challenging. Because when you get a hit of that citrus, it's like, whoa!
Yeah, it is.
And what might be that? There's a reason that I climb the 14ers. Not because they're easy, but because they aren't. But it can be so full of life and zestful and change in perspective. Change in altitude can be a change in attitude. It's all sorts of things that just because it's hard, because it is challenging, that could make it an adventure. So what adds zest? What makes life an adventure?
Well, I was just going to say that word, Tom, is really key. It's not just refreshing. We're hitting on some words that zest creates, and one is refreshing, but another is that word adventure. And I think we crave it. We do need adventure. We need, there are normal things that happen through life that we get to do, and there are moments where we need that adventure, and adventure often it doesn't come easily necessarily. And I was just also reminded of we actually climbed a 14er. You climbed with, thankfully, because I probably wouldn't have missed it without you. But, a number of years ago, we climbed a 14er together, and it was an adventure. It was this kind of, and it was so hard. Like I thought I was going to pass out half the time, just to get my breath and overcome like vertigo and all sorts of stuff like that. But it was this huge sense of accomplishment, and talk about adding kind of the sharpness and full flavor of life into my life at that time. And so I do think thinking about that adventure, like what is it that would be adventurous for me? Or for, I think again you can apply this personally or to groups of people that maybe it's your family, or maybe it's your spouse, or maybe it's colleagues. What would be adventurous to us that would create that sense of zest and that would lead to thriving?
Because that is thriving. It doesn't lead to thriving, it is thriving. That's why Z is zest for life. I can't emphasize strongly enough. The whole point Zest was a thing, was to make something that was unpalatable palatable, to make something that was less than palatable more palatable, and to make something that was palatable even better and enhance it. Life can be like that. Life can sometimes be unpalatable. Those gag me moments. Ugh. Or, I've got to have it. I mean, life can be like food. It's kind of there, but is it something we can enjoy? And what can I add to that enhances and wakes up the taste buds to pick up more flavor, so to speak? Because that's what Zest does. It allows us to broaden from that moment and that experience to add to others. So if life is unpalatable, add some zest. Because life can be that way. And if it is palatable, make it very special.
And so what we're encouraging you to do, listeners, is, think about writing the get to list. That could be a start. Like, what are the things, and maybe do some big things and some small things. Like it could be sitting on the swing like me this morning. There's a small, tiny thing that, or it could be something much bigger like climbing a 14er. But the point is, dream a little bit. Think about what are the things that refresh me, and what are the things that could be an adventure, and compile that list. And actually, then if you're feeling things are bland or things are unpalatable, then you can add some of these things into your life and go for a few of those things.
Yep, especially then. Especially add zest when it's bland.
Especially when it's bland. Or I don't know whether this is like a British myth, but I remember hearing once, if you have a dead mouse in your house, one of the things that gets rid of the smell is lemon zest. So the point is, if there's any truth in that, there is actually, if it's bland or bad odor, like if something isn't great, if life is smelling bad or tasting bad, or you get the analogies, but add zest, because suddenly it takes you out of that space from surviving into thriving.
Yep,
so
couldn't have said it better.
I love that, Tom. Well, let's just acknowledge the fact that we've done the ABCs of thriving. We've finished. We're excited to think through the next season. But thank you so much, Tom, and for all of your thoughts. And I've thoroughly enjoyed having these conversations with you about these words that kind of lead us and are thriving. But I'm also very thankful to our listeners. We have just had a milestone of like 10,000 downloads or something like that. And it's all to do with you, the listeners, and just really appreciate. We hope that these conversations are helpful, are tangible, are moving you into that space of thriving. That's why we do it. That's why we're here, right, Tom? Because we care. So thank you so much. And we'll see you at our next series, which we're super excited about. See you then.
You've been listening to the Autonomic Healing Podcast.
Join us next time as we continue in our conversations with Tom. If you're interested in pursuing your own autonomic healing journey and want to find a practitioner, visit our website, innerworkings.org. See you at the next episode.